Hello and welcome to another unboxing video by Dad vs. Daughter. I'm Tim the Dad.
I'm Megan the Daughter.
And today we are unboxing Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. This is by Gray Fox Games. So Megan, go ahead and do the honors.
It has the seal of excellence.
From the Dice Tower, yeah. Now this game plays 4 to 12 players. So chances are good that we will not be actually having a playthrough of this unless we can actually recruit a bunch of other guest stars.
Okay. Have punch outs right there.
We have a small rule book.
Okay. We have some good card stock right there, some stuff.
Now that's actually pretty thick. Now these are the clues that the forensic scientist is going to be giving.
Okay. And then we have
more of the same.
Yep. Some different ones.
We have plastic bullets. Now these are going to be what the forensic scientist is going to put on those cards in order to try to help identify the murderer.
Okay. These are all shrink wrapped, so I need help opening them. So here are some tiny cards with different items on them.
And that's how we're going to be identifying the or basing our clues on is what the
it's the red deck.
Basically what the murderer said were the prime clues.
We have
go ahead.
We have a blue deck, different items. This looks like weapons.
And here's some more of the other ones. You can tell that there are just a ton of different things here. And there's even one that said a rat.
There was a cat in the other one.
Cat and a rat. A sponge, Bob.
Okay. So now we have this blue deck with like silhouette on it, and we have an eyewitness and a murderer and the investigators and forensic scientist and an accomplice.
So basically what you're going to do is, depending on the number of players, you could have different roles. You will always have the murderer. You will have, most of the people will be investigators, and some people will be listed as a witness, and what was the other one we had? An accomplice. So, like I said, based on the number of players, that's where that kind of comes into play. Let's take a look at those tiles there, Megan.
These?
Different things like, okay, cause of death, suffocation, injury, severe injury, loss of blood, illness, disease, poisoning, accident. You have the condition of the corpse. You have day of the crime, duration of the crime. You have your general impression, the hint on corpse, in progress, location of crime. Here are a bunch of different locations of crime here. There's at least 4 there, and you can tell those are green as opposed to these other ones which are orange. What else we got over there, Megan?
We have some different orange ones and some blue ones.
Whoops. Yeah, let's see that. So we have murderer's personality, evidence left behind, social relationship, noticed by bystander, state of scene, sudden incident, time of death, trace at the scene, victim's build, victim's clothes, victim's expression. The expression was probably like, ah, he killed me.
You never know.
What's that? Peaceful, struggling, frightened, in pain, blank, and angry. Well, I would think that he was probably struggling because he was murdered.
Not necessarily. He could have been poisoned, died in his sleep, so it could be peaceful.
Well, yeah. Frightened, in pain, yeah. Angry. Yeah, he's angry. He's ticked off because he got killed. Victim's identity, child, young adult, middle-aged, senior. Senior. Male or female. Victim's occupation and weather. So,
hey, the weather plays an important part of it. I learned that from Sherlock.
Yeah, and you can see the insert here. Looks like a pretty good insert. Different spots for all the different tiles that we have. It's kind of a combination of Mysterium and the Resistance. I know you've played Mysterium. We've done videos on Mysterium. You have not played the Resistance, though. So. Okay, we have this set up for a 4-player game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through how a typical turn plays out. Now, everybody has 4 of the key evidence and 4 of the means cards placed in front of them, and they each have their role that nobody else knows about, and they also have their badge, which is going to be used to basically signify when they want to make a guess as far as what the two items are. So just so you can kind of see what's going to happen here, we have the murderer is sitting right here. So the person that is the forensic scientist is going to have everybody close their eyes, and then they're going to have the murderer open their eyes and pick one of the means and one of the key evidence that's in front of them. So in this case, we'll say that this person picked arsenic, and we'll go with high heel. So we have the cause of death. So then what the forensic scientists can do, they have 4 location tiles, and they're going to be able to pick which one of those best matches the clues that the murderer had given them. So in this example, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose this tile for the location, which shows vacation home, park, supermarket, school, woods, and bank, because I'm kind of thinking that the high heel is going to be kind of a tricky thing to come across, or to get the idea across. So I think I'm going to choose that maybe it's somebody that works in a bank. The next thing I do too is I take the top 4 tiles off of the stack that have basically the orange tiles. These are kind of the other clues that we're going to have, and we just lay those out in front like this. And I would have these facing the investigators, because that's what everybody else is. So everybody has opened their eyes at this point. We know that arsenic was chosen as the means, so I'm going to say that it was poisoning, so I just place my marker there. And the whole time that I'm placing these markers down, everybody around the table, with the exception of the forensic scientist, is actually going to be talking about their theories and so forth. The murderer is going to try to get everybody to kind of get off his scent and be pointing out what other people have. So for location of crime, say bank, because I'm assuming it's, maybe a person that was dressed up where the high heel comes in. And as everybody keeps talking, I'm either going to try to zero in on certain things that they're talking about, or get them to go away from some of the things that they may be discussing as well. So victim's identity, let's say it was a female, because that kind of goes with the high heel. Social relationship, let's say employer-employee. Day of crime, let's say it was during the weekday. And murderer's personality, we have poison and a high heel. We don't know exactly how that's going to go together. Let's just say that they're despicable because they're poisoning somebody. So then after the 6th bullet is placed on the tiles down here, then everybody gets a short amount of time to have their normal discussion, but then they're going to go around the table and they're going to discuss their theories. If anybody wants to make a guess as to which were the means and the key evidence, then they can throw their badge in the middle of the table there, and they can say who it is. Now, the forensic scientist is going to either say yes or no. So let's say that, actually, let's throw this person's tile in, or badge. Let's say they're going to guess, and they think that, just for the sake of argument, they picked poisonous gas and bread. So they point to those 2 things. The forensic scientist is basically going to say yes or no, and that's it. So in this case, they would say no. So after everybody's gone around and done their presentations, the forensic scientist then can select another tile off of the top of the stack of these orange ones and place that down and place the bullet on that. So let's say that the top tile that I picked next was the corpse condition. And I'm looking at these and I'm going to say, well, the murderer's personality, that doesn't really fit very well. So let's get rid of that one. And let's place this one down. And let's say that they were still warm because they were poisoned. So once again, there's going to be some short discussion. They're going to go around the table again. Everybody's going to make their case. People can make their guesses if they want. People can make their guesses anytime throughout the course of the game. They just have to do it before the last presentation is finished. So let's say that everybody made that, nobody else is making a guess. Then the forensic scientist pulls the next tile off the top. This is hint on corpse. Let's say that we'll take out this social relationship one. And we'll put that one in there. And let's say that because they were poisoned, let's just go with all over. So after that last clue is placed, again, final discussion, everybody makes a final presentation, and anybody that still needs to make a guess makes a guess. If all the investigators make their guess and they are all wrong, then the murderer wins. Obviously, if they pick the right two, in this case, if somebody picks arsenic and the high heel, then the investigators win and the murderers lose. There are a couple of variations that you can play, and the rules suggest if you have more than 6 players that you can do this. There are other tiles that come in. Actually, I guess you don't even need 6 players for this part, but they are ruled out evidence. These cards, these tiles, here's a good twist, here's a useful circle or useful clue, countdown, erroneous information, and secret testimony. These are shuffled into the stack of the other tiles. So if these come up, then you basically do what's on that card. For instance, on the ruled out one, it says each player can flip over one of their clue cards, removing it from consideration. So say that, and you can't do the ones that were picked. So let's say we chose to flip, we just flip these 2 over here, and every player would do that too, so that those are no longer in consideration. So it really narrows it down. So the chances of you getting some of these, you know, you're probably only going to get maybe 1. You could get a couple during the game. But if you have more than 6 players, what you can do is you can introduce 2 new role cards. One is the accomplice, and like when the murderer identifies themselves, the accomplice does too at the beginning of the game. And so they know who the murderer is, and they know which 2 clues they want to have the investigators not zero in on. The other role is the witness. Now, the witness is a person who, like the accomplice and the murderer, after those guys identify themselves, then they close their eyes. The forensic scientist says, "Witness, open your eyes." So the forensic scientist knows who the witness is, and then what the scientist will do is he will point to the murderer and the accomplice, but not what the items were. So the witness knows that it's between one of those 2 people, but they don't know what the clues were. The gameplay is normal, but then at the end, if the murderer is caught, if the murderer can identify who the witness is, then the murderer gets away. So the kind of the backstory that the rules put on there was that since they were able to identify the witness, they were able to have the witness killed before the trial, so then the murderer got off, and then the murderer and the accomplice win. All right, so now let's get to what we think. Okay, I'll go first. I like this game. We've played this quite a bit at lunch. It plays relatively fast. We've played it with, 4, 5, and 6 players. So we've had a variety of different games to play. I've only been the murderer once. I've been the forensic scientist a couple of different times. But like I said, it plays really well. It's good. It's kind of a party game. Social deduction. There's a lot of variability in this because there are 100 of the red cards, the key evidence, and there are 90 of the means cards. But it's kind of funny because when people start zeroing on that, they really want to try to throw suspicion towards somebody else. So it really doesn't matter how many people that you have. A lot of times if you've got a good scientist who can get the good clues out, they're really going to start zeroing in on who that is, and it really makes for really interesting dynamics when people are trying to throw suspicion off of themselves. Megan, what do you think?
This game really isn't my favorite. I'm just not really good at all the guessing and trying to zero in on stuff that much. So this just isn't kind of my favorite game. I think Mysterium would be more of what I'm into compared to this one, because it's kind of more, at least when we play, it's more solo thoughts and trying to go with what the group thinks. So I don't like that aspect of it personally.
Yeah, you don't have somebody trying to throw you off the scent, so to speak.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, it's different in that aspect. So I kind of like doing standalone thinking than having it with the group. I do like the artwork though. I think it's cool. It is an interesting type of game though. I mean, it will get people involved in talking, so it's just not my favorite game.
Well, and to be honest, you really only played the game a couple times, so and I've played it a lot more, so I do have a little bit more experience, and maybe with more experience you might change your mind. But your initial first impression, that's why we do the reviews. So, all right, so that'll wrap it up, and we will catch you guys next time.
Bye. Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.